Hey, Mike here from Bellingham Millwork. Today we're going to get you some information so you can start planning and laying out that deck that you've been wanting to do for a few years. We're going to start right down at the ground with our adjustable pier block. Now the reason I drew this picture is to show you that that block needs to be set down into the ground. Whether you call it below the frost line or down to undisturbed earth, you'll drive by a house where people have bought a pier block and they just set it on the ground. Unfortunately, that might work for a year or two, but around here, the thawing and the freezing of the ground will move it. So you want that down so your deck's going to stay level. So the adjustable pier block is so great because if you have more than one in your installation, you can lay them close and then adjust it with this bolt right here. So that gets us coming up out of the ground. Above that, perhaps to get your height, and depending on where you are, and you may have to put a short 4x4 in there, right here, and then we have a bracket that goes to our beam that's going to support our deck. And in this case, we're going to stick a 4x6 in there, and we would, of course, screw that together. Now, a little hint for you. As you're figuring out your layout, figure an inch per foot. This 4x6 will span 6 feet. Now there's a little kicker there that I want to point out as we come. Here's our 4x6 supporting our joist, and I'll talk about that kicker on the joist because in this case we just have 2x6 joists. They're connected to a ledger on our house, and there are many different ways to connect that ledger. And now they've come out with this deck block that you put against there so that you hold your ledger away from your house so the water and all the dirt and stuff runs down. Traditional lag bolt. You can also use a ledger lock, which you can see is quite a bit smaller, drives in really easy. This has the same shear strength as a 3/8 lag bolt. So we've got our ledger attached. Now we attach to our ledger a hanger, a 2x6 hanger, and our joist has that same rule as our beam, inch per foot. So this 2x6 will span 6 feet out to our beam. Now notice it's extending beyond it. This is called cantilever, or you can just say overhang, and our 2x6, being 6 inches wide, can be overhung or cantilevered a foot. A 2x12, 12 inches wide, can go out 2 feet. So we really, while we can only span 6 feet, we can do 7 feet with a 2x6 and be safe. All this information, by the way, is available to you. This is Bellingham's residential deck code information and details. You can go online if you want to check yourself or see what the city of Bellingham requires. If you're not in Bellingham, it's a good guide just to give you guidance, and I'm sure your city has a very similar one. Gives you lots of good information as you're making plans. So here's our joist coming out. At the end of our joist is our rim, another 2x6. And on the outside of that, in the color of our various decks, are fascia boards. You can get a fascia board in a 1x8, 7 1/4, or a 1x12. The 1x8 we used here because you can see it overlaps our 2x6. If we had a deeper joist, we might have to go to the 12-inch fascia board if we want to finish our deck off that way. And then, here's our composite decking on top. Before I get there, just want to give you a look. There's kind of what you're seeing in the picture. So our deck is going to be laid right on top of that, and we can lay the deck with our just a face screw or our hidden fasteners. This is Trex hidden fastener here, and notice the side of the deck has a groove in it that goes in and evenly spaces our decking. Now, as you're looking at that, you see, oh my goodness, that's kind of got a rippled end to it. A lot of people don't like to look at that, so what they'll do when they lay their deck out is do a picture frame around the deck. And if you're going to do a picture frame, it requires a little bit extra framing to support that, but it ends up being a real nice finish. Now, one of the things that I wanted to emphasize was this is composite decking. And one of the things we've learned over time, it wants to be separated. Here on my corner, where these come together, it looks really good and it fits nice, except you don't want to, because composite decking moves. It expands and contracts. If I put it together real tight, over time it's going to either buckle it or move it, etc. So when I install it, I want an 1/8 inch up to a 3/16 gap on my decking, on all the joints, the end joints, the side joints, the miter joints, always look, and it looks great because it looks like that's what you intended. And it's an aspect of composite decking. There's so many good things. The fact that it doesn't fit tightly together, some people get upset by that, but you're not going to sand it, you're not going to paint it, it's just going to be there for your enjoyment. Finally, I mentioned the city guide. We have a Trex guide on the installation. If you have questions about the installation, we have a guide that you can pick up down here at the store. Likewise, if you feel intimidated by this, come in and we're happy to recommend different contractors who have done many decks and composite materials to you that you can come out and get a bid from. We're down here to answer your questions and make your project successful. So if this has opened any questions to you, come on down to Bellingham Millworks and ask us. That's what we're here for.